So you say you want to be an investor. Well, coming up today on How Do I ... I'm talking with Richard Smith on Real Estate 101. He's managed to capitalize being a real estate wholesaler.
We wanted to have at least $15,000 a month consistently coming in before I left corporate America.
Today we are talking with Richard Smith. He is a wholesaler in the Texas market, and he's going to give us some news you can use on all things wholesaling, what it's like, how he started, where he's at today. Take it away, Richard.
Yes, my name is Richard Smith, and we started a wholesaling business and really focused in on just the wholesaling side of it in January of 2019. And during the first quarter of 2019, we were struggling trying to get deals. And by the second quarter of 2019, we were able to consistently get deals, 5 to 6 deals a month closed out. And by the end of 2019, I was actually able to leave corporate America.
Now that's big, because a lot of people are trying to figure out their next move, the exit strategy. So did you have a line in the sand where you said, okay, I need to have this much volume before I leave, or you said, I just got to jump all in and just do it?
We wanted to have at least $15,000 a month consistently coming in before I left corporate America.
Okay. So check, check, check.
Check, 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 correct.
So you were working this while working your corporate job as would you call it a side hustle, or were you just really trying to ramp up the business so you can make that exit? Richard explains how he turned his hustle into his grind.
It started off as a side hustle, and I was really trying to figure out the systems in place to source deals. So if people don't know exactly what wholesaling is, wholesaling real estate is the ability to find real estate motivated sellers, get the houses under contract or properties under contract at a discounted rate, and then resell those properties quickly to investors that are going to either flip the properties or build new houses on vacant land and things like that.
Give me a real-time example. Is it that I'm in a desolate situation, or you just come randomly knock on my door and say, hey, you want to sell your house? How does that work?
It can be both. It can be that the house is in a desperate situation, meaning that we drive for dollars or drive neighborhoods and see houses that have deferred maintenance, high grass, shutters that are needing to be painted, windows that are broken out of the property. Might still be somebody living there, so we can knock on those doors. And if the seller is motivated, meaning that they don't have the ability to keep the property up, sometimes they want to sell. The other thing is a financial motivation. People that are going through pre-foreclosures and things like that have a financial motivation that they just can't keep the property.
Okay, so now you want to go grab a pencil and paper, because we're going to get down to the numbers, the stuff that really matters, and you're going to want to take notes, because he's about to break it down in a way that makes sense to even the newbie. Let's talk dollars and cents. So I have a house. I owe, I don't know, let's say $100,000 on it, but its value might be almost $200,000. Walk me through how that process works from a numbers perspective.
From a numbers perspective, we like to get, okay, so $200,000 would be your market value, your after repair value of the property, right? So properties in that area, if you go to a realtor, they've been selling at the $200,000 price point. What we would like to look at is what needs to be done. So let's say you need $40,000 of work on your property. We'd offer for that roughly about, you owe $100,000, so we need to offer about $120,000 is the max with the $40,000 worth of work that needs to be done. Somebody does that work, they're going to make another $40,000, $50,000 on the back end.
So now you make that deal with the homeowner, and then you have to go find a buyer that says, hey, I like this house. Or an investor that says, hey, this is a great deal for me. What becomes in it for you?
So in that deal, we'd probably get it contracted as close to $100,000 as we possibly can. and know that the investor is going to want about 30,000 after they do the repairs. So that means that if there's $40,000 worth of repairs that need to be done, the max that they're going to pay is, what's that? 200,000, we said, right? So 40,000 worth of repairs. They want $70,000 total gap between what we get it at and what they're going to be able to sell it at, right? So they can do their $40,000 in repairs and still make around $30,000 off of $30,000 off of. So that means that we can sell it no more. We have to get it as close to and below $130,000 as we possibly can. So we can get it for 110, 120. That means that we have about $10,000 that we can mark it up a little bit and sell it to a buyer for 130, and that's our profit in the middle.
Okay, did you catch all that? $10,000 is the profit that Richard nets based on the example he gave. So you might want to pause, rewind, because you want to catch those numbers.
And so there's no realtors involved. You get your money up front.
Well, no, there's no realtors involved. We get our money at closing. So everything is done at closing. We have our buyers send in a non-refundable earnest money deposit to the title company. So if they back out the deal, at least we'll make. Usually we do it for $5,000. So if our end buyer decides that they don't want to go through with the deal and they've sent in their $5,000, they lose that $5,000 and it comes directly to us, and then we resell it to somebody else.
I mean, that's a nice day right there when you can just walk away with money. Not that you're trying to grab people, but
we're not trying to grab people's money, but it's to ensure that they are serious about closing the deal.
Painfully so.
Yes, painfully serious.
It's important to note there is a big difference between wholesaling, which is what Richard does, versus rehab, flipping, or as they would call it, paint and carpet. Richard is going to go into the details on what those specifics are.
For the person who wants to do wholesaling, do you know what the difference is between just being an investor that's going out and buying carpet and paint type houses versus wholesaler? What got your interest in one or the other?
I had actually did fix and flips prior to doing wholesaling. I started doing real estate on the side back in 2016.
As a realtor? Or
no, as an investor.
Okay.
So our first deal we found was actually a fix and flip deal. And it just takes a lot more. You're dealing with contractors, you're dealing with the expenses involved, and if you're don't have a construction background, don't have a contracting background, you can get in over your head very quickly, and every expense dwindles the amount of profit that you're going to make. So you can have it budgeted out for $30,000 profit, but after expenses, you could be down to $10,000, $5,000, and then you're dealing with fluctuations in the market, especially at a time right now where if you're not buying it right, as an investor that's doing a fix and flip, you're looking at where the market is going to be in 3 months down the road, because all of your projections are based on current sales, right? So if sales in your area right now are 200,000, but in 3 months sales in the area are 170,000, you can't sell that house for 200,000 that you thought you were going to be able to sell it for 200,000 just because the market shifted on you.
So now you either have to hold it or rent it and wait for the market to do an uptick. So yeah,
correct.
A little more riskier too, because like you said, you have to get involved from an investor perspective. You have to get involved in construction side of things, the unknown things that come your way, versus wholesaling. Sounds like you don't have to get involved in any of that stuff.
Correct. We are just controlling a contract and selling our interest in that contract. We don't actually close on any houses. We don't actually ever really purchase that property. The only thing that we have in that property is equitable interest. And that's what we're selling off, is the equitable interest in the contract.
So you're like the broker. You bring people together.
Exactly. We bring people together. We market for sellers and we market for buyers, and we connect those two.
So do you have a site now where people actually go looking for you, or you still hit the pavement?
I do a little bit of both. I have a webpage where people can find me at rkbgroupllc.com and put in their information, and we'll give them a cash offer on their property. But we do a lot of marketing, mostly cold calling and ringless voicemails and text blasts to different sellers in different types of situations. And that's how we market for our deals.
Well, it's always nice to have a fat check on payday, but it's not always roses. Richard will explain what I mean.
So is it fair to say you have to have tough skin?
Oh yeah, you have to be able to deal with rejection. You have to understand that you're going to get through the no's to get to the yeses. Because we're not looking for the 95% of properties. We're looking for more the 5% of properties that are going to fit our criteria and be motivated to sell and have enough equity in the property to where investors can come in and make a profit as well.
Gotcha. Now, do you also do rental properties, or you just strictly wholesale?
Right now, we strictly wholesale. I want to get into the actual development of properties, because the difference between me and a lot of wholesalers is my niche is land more so than houses, actually.
Oh, okay.
And anybody that's looking to start wholesaling, especially in a competitive market, because you're going against a lot of people that have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge of the housing market. If you can find land, land sales are much easier just because people are detached emotionally from the land.
Okay.
If they have land that they haven't built on, they're more than likely never going to build on it. So it's just a build to them at this point. So you call them up and be like, do you have this land that you want to sell? They'd be like, oh yeah, actually, I would love to sell it. I didn't know anybody would want it. Exactly. But the new builds in a lot of areas, there's a lot of investors that are doing new construction, not necessarily large developments, but single family house, one-off, two houses. And they pay for the land pretty good, and that's a pretty marketable and profitable end game for them.
You know, you're right, because I was just downtown Atlanta yesterday. They're doing a lot of rebuilding in some of the lesser popular neighborhoods. But when I tell you, it's almost like Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach was like the hood, and then they realized that was beachfront property, and people came in and started buying it, the Trumps and those kind of people. And just, wow. So I was out there yesterday, and there's this guy who's building this house, like $800,000 house, but right beside it is this dilapidated house, and then there's this little shanty house beside it, and people are still buying that stuff. Like they see the game, I guess.
Exactly, and they see the end game, and they buy the small house just to tear it down and build up the neighborhood, right? And in that, you'll have vacant lots that are just sitting. And what we do is pull out a neighborhood, see if there's new houses that are being built there, and look for all the vacant lots, and then call those people that are looking to sell their vacant lots, and then we sell those houses to the people that are building houses in that neighborhood.
Wow.
I mean, we sell those lots to the people that are building houses.
Because one guy, they're all usually pretty small lots in the inner city. So they build like those shotgun houses. They build long and tall. And he says, yeah, I bought that lot and that lot and that lot. I'm like, well, are these lots going away for cheap around here? Let me get my eyes out and take a look.
Yeah, they usually are. A lot of times they're going away for just the appraised value or below the appraised value. The only thing that you have to worry about is the amount of liens that the city has put on those properties, because that can make or break a deal. So you can get a property under contract for $500, $1,000 that the seller wants, but the city has $10,000 worth of liens on it or $15,000 worth of liens on it, depending on the neighborhood and area. Because we have areas in Dallas where individual lots, 50 by 100 lots, are going for $30,000. So that wouldn't necessarily be a deal breaker, but in some areas we have those same size lots where they can only resell for about $10,000, where that would be an upside down deal. You wouldn't be able to necessarily move that off without really negotiating with the city to try to get those liens taken off.
So what I'm hearing you say is nothing's off limits. Our natural mind would think, oh, just go for the houses, but you just dropped the nugget. Go for the lands.
Go for the lands, because the houses, so many people are out there investing. I mean, all your seminars are talking about land, right? I mean, houses. Land is a niche market that nobody really is tapping into as of yet. People, like a lot of trainings are starting to go into land and developing, but they still mainly focus on people going after houses. So if you're in a competitive market, like the Atlanta market's very competitive, the Dallas market's very competitive, go after the things that other people aren't necessarily going after.
Now, speaking of seminars, did you start out going to seminars? Do you recommend people go to seminars, or do you just, yesterday the guy said, just do it, just jump all in, just, it is what it is.
Exactly. I mean, I recommend going to seminars if you are a very analytical person, right? You want to kind of understand every aspect of what you're doing to feel confident about where you're going to go. I don't recommend necessarily buying the $30,000 seminar package. At that point, I recommend going and starting to do it off of what you heard initially in that seminar. And then the seminar that you want to get into is one that gets into specific details on the real estate activities that you are planning on doing. Like, you need seminars if you already have a couple of deals that you've done, but you need to learn how to scale your business, right? Let's say you're getting consistent deals, 1 or 2 consistent deals a month, but you want to scale to understand how to get 5 to 10 deals closed out a month or things like that. Then you might need an additional seminar just to understand what other aspects you might be doing wrong, or things that you might need to improve on systems and things like that.
Are they going to give you all that you need to know, or is it going to, I feel like it varies. It's kind of like you just have to get out there and just find what works for you, right?
A lot of times you do have to go in and find what works for you. Like, the thing that took us from doing 1 or 2 deals a month to being able to consistently do 5 to 10 deals per month was Wholesaling Inc., which is specific to just the wholesaling niche. But it taught us how to properly cold call, properly pull the correct lists, and know that we're talking and track our KPIs, which are your key performance indicators, into your business, and just be able to scale that up to where we went from making $5,000 to $7,000 a month to netting average $50,000 a month. Just so when you, but that was when we decided that we were going to go strictly wholesaling. Right. So if you're getting into real estate and looking at the real estate investor seminars, I say don't, because a lot of times they're going over multiple topics and they're not really diving deep in any of them. I do say join a real estate investor association in your area, because that's going to be localized information, as well as your networking with other investors in your area.
Somebody else said that too, and it's also good for getting hard money loans as well. Like,
correct. That is a place to meet hard money lenders and things like that, is in your local RIA, or Real Estate Investor Association. The other thing that I suggest looking into is any self-directed IRA programs or offices in your area that do self-directed IRAs, because those are pretty much most of the people that have a self-directed IRA are going to be your investors, are going to be your private money lenders, which is even cheaper than hard money lenders, because they don't necessarily charge as high an interest rate on your money.
Well, that was a tip for you.
Yep.
Jeez, you really got this thing down pat. No wonder you quit your corporate job. And I should also say he's a techie, so if he quit a techie job that was paying pretty good to just go all in wholesale, then the money must be amazing for sure. Yes.
It was. I waited until my wife was on board, and then she saw how things were working. She was like, "Okay, you can make that leap."
Yes, now you can go ahead. But that is awesome, because the whole point of this conversation is people are wanting to get into investing, and I want them to see there's different ways and different sides to it. You do
Mhm.
wholesaling, then there's the carpet and paint guys. And what I did was a different level of investing. I was more so just buy a regular brand new executive style house, live in it for a year, do a little bit of what I call Rashida on it, and then I'll turn around and just rent them for like lots of money because I'll get really low interest rates. So that was
Mhm.
like playing the stock market back in the early 2000s, right? I'll get
Yep.
those LIBOR interest only loans where my rate was like 1.25%, and I was only paying on the interest on a $300,000 or $400,000 house. So I could turn around and rent it for $3,000 a month, and no one would think anything of it when my payment
Yep.
was only $1,500. So I was like, check, check, check. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of ways to get to where you're going. It's just a matter of what makes you comfortable. What's your level of risk?
Yes, correct. There's all about your level of risk and what your situation and how you can get into to an aspect of real estate that you want to get in. There's so many different facets of real estate investing. The whole terminology of real estate investing is vast because there's all kinds of different things. So it's just, and that's what I was thinking about with the training is there's so many different areas that you can go into that most training courses are going to overwhelm somebody that's brand new. You might have saw my wife come in on the back.
So what's next for you? You've got your wholesale business going. Are you going to start writing books? Are you going to do seminars? Like what's next?
The next thing that I want to do is once I get, like I was saying, I want to do some land developing and get into that aspect of it. And then I might write a book maybe. When we first started, me and my business partners were thinking about all the things that we learned and all the pitfalls and how to put those into a book just for beginners. Just because it is a journey and you don't necessarily know what you don't know until you get out there. And there's not a course or a group or anything that's going to answer all your questions because every deal is different.
That's good. I think you should do an ebook, and I think people will get it. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's always nice to see people say, "Well, I made $1 million in 2 weeks." That's great. But then when you go out and try it as an individual, and you go, "Well, that ain't quite working out so well."
Exactly. Did you start with 1.5 million?
Right.
What's the truth behind those numbers?
Exactly. Anytime I see that sort of stuff, I'm like, well, good for you if that really did happen. But I'm like, that's the case else. That's not necessarily the norm per se. So
exactly.
They talk real numbers to you. You probably can be a little more relatable than the big fluffy one-off. So yeah.
Exactly, one pie in the sky type things, and that's why I wanted to drop that little tidbit. Was if everybody's going after one thing, you try to find out the niche in the market where people aren't necessarily going. I think that is, especially as somebody new into the business, that'll get you some deals under your belt, get you some confidence, and then you can be able to ramp up your marketing to go after the properties and things that everybody else is going after.
That's good stuff. And now that I think about it, you're right too. Just cold calling, because I remember I have a real estate license, residential, and this person was hell bent on buying in this neighborhood. And I'm like, there's nothing for sale in this neighborhood, and she was not letting go. So I finally had to call everybody in the neighborhood and go, I've got this buyer. She's ready. You want to sell your house? Eventually, one person bid, and I sold their house. So yeah, it's about the numbers. It's about rejection, but you got to keep going.
Exactly. You definitely have to keep going. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't necessarily like to do cold calling, but it is one of the cheapest forms of marketing out there. And you get a direct response, right? It's instantaneous whether or not this person is interested or not interested, rather than you sending out postcards with everybody else that's sending out postcards or doing non-direct forms of mail, and you're waiting and you don't necessarily know what the response is going to be.
And just because they say no today, you've just planted the seed. So maybe circle back around in another month. But you got me thinking.
Exactly. That's it.
So don't give up. You got to be tough in this game. You got to be resilient and not give up and persevere. I think that's the takeaway.
That is definitely the takeaway there. That's, if you're going to do any kind of business on your own, that's the number one thing is not having thin skin, understanding that you have to push past the rejections to get to you got to push past the no's to get to the yeses. The yeses are out there for you.
They're out there. Well, thank you, Richard. And shoot me your your website, so I want to put that out there as well. How people can reach out
Okay.
to you. Maybe charge a little consulting fee. You never know.
No. And I'm always open to co-marketing on a deal. If you have a property and you don't have a buyer, I'm always open to marketing that property and seeing if we can do a joint venture.
Well, hello. There it is. Well, thank you for your time, Richard, and I hope that you've opened people's eyes about the mystery behind wholesaling versus regular investing, and get people thinking outside the box. I think
Exactly. Thank you. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
absolutely, Richard. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Well, if you never thought about investing on the wholesale side of things, I hope that Richard and all the nuggets that he dropped gave you a different perspective and maybe opened your eyes to taking a look, because it seems like it's working, it's lucrative, so much and so he quit his corporate America job to do this full time. So it's something to consider and to change your perspective on what investors look like. This is the first of several episodes in the real estate series, so I look forward to sharing more information and news you can use. Be sure to follow me on social media, all platforms at Randomly Rashida. Also, go like, follow, and share, because you know sharing is caring. And you can also find me on www.randomlyrashida.com.